SpaceX has completed all pre-launch tests for Starship's highly anticipated fourth integrated flight test, and we have hints on the launch date from official sources. The FAA recently gave updates on the Flight 4 launch license and Flight 3 mishap investigation. Also, tank farm decommissioning and second launch pad works continue parallel to Flight 4 preparations. Join us as we delve into the heart of these latest developments. SpaceX has successfully concluded the wet dress rehearsal of Starship 29 Booster 11 full-stack vehicle, the final test before launch. Before the actual wet dress rehearsal, SpaceX conducted a full-stack partial wet dress rehearsal on May 16, which involved partially filling the methane and oxygen tanks of both the booster and the ship with propellants. This 30-minute test verified all ground systems and the vehicles themselves before advancing to the full wet dress rehearsal. Following the partial test last Thursday, the teams spent the subsequent days working on the booster's oxygen tank section. Reports indicate that this was the first time a booster oxygen tank was entered and worked on while a ship was stacked on top of it. After completing the necessary fixes, SpaceX proceeded with the full wet dress rehearsal on Monday, May 20th. The wet dress rehearsal simulates a launch day scenario involving fully loading propellants into the rocket and conducting a launch countdown rehearsal, excluding the ignition of the rocket's engines. The test on Monday began with a simultaneous loading of propellants into both the booster and the ship. Within approximately 45 minutes, both the ship and the booster were fully loaded with over 10 million pounds of cryogenic liquid methane and liquid oxygen. The vehicle remained in this state for the next 20 minutes as mission controllers conducted launch day procedures, including countdown and all system checks. Both Starship and booster engine chills were conducted during the countdown rehearsal, where cryogenic propellants flowed through engine components to condition them to the right temperature before ignition. The ship and booster were later detanked, concluding the wet dress rehearsal. The wet dress rehearsals for the first two integrated flight tests last year took nearly 90 minutes to fully load the launch vehicles with propellants. However, the Flight 3 wet dress rehearsal in March and the recent tests took only 45 minutes to complete the propellant loading. This significant improvement in fuel loading time was made possible by newly installed heat exchangers and pumps at the tank farm. The fuel loading time will improve in the future, reducing turnaround times and allowing for faster launch schedules. Notably, Monday's wet dress rehearsal marked the first time propellants were drawn from the new horizontal storage tanks to fully load the launch vehicle. Interestingly, the booster liquid oxygen tank was not completely loaded during the test, unlike the Flight 3 wet dress rehearsal, where it was fully loaded. Additionally, the launch vehicle remained fully loaded for only 20 minutes this time, compared to an hour during the Flight 3 wet dress rehearsal. The reasons for these deviations are unknown, but it's possible that SpaceX has gained more confidence in its launch vehicle, requiring less time to test all systems. The next day, on May 21st, Ship 29 was destacked from Booster 11 with the help of tower arms. This ship is currently staged near the launch tower, and teams are actively working on it. This ship has some heat tiles missing that are to be installed before the final stack for launch. Recently, Elon Musk posted on X that Starship Flight 4 is expected to occur in about 2 weeks, although he did not specify an exact launch date. However, NASA has already reserved June 1st for its WB-57 aircraft, which tracks Starship launches from the air and captures imagery, providing valuable data for mission monitoring and post-flight analysis. A local notice to mariners, which includes exclusion zones for a Starship launch, has been released lately, confirming the targeted launch date is June 1st. The road closure notice for flight activity posted on the Cameron County website also suggests a launch as early as June 1st. However, additional road closures for rocket testing have also been posted for May 28, with back updates on the 29th and 30th. This is unusual since all testing activities for Flight 4 have already been completed. It is possible that SpaceX is planning to conduct a second wet dress rehearsal during one of those days, but there is no official confirmation yet. We will have to wait and see how things unfold. Although the launch is expected as early as June 1st, SpaceX has yet to receive a launch license from the FAA, and the investigation into the Flight 3 mishap is still ongoing. According to the latest update from the FAA, if the agency agrees no public safety issues were involved in the mishap, SpaceX Starship may return to flight while the mishap investigation remains open, provided all other license requirements are met. This is promising news for SpaceX, as it means they no longer have to wait for the lengthy mishap investigation to conclude for a launch license. By allowing SpaceX to proceed with its Starship flights while the investigation into the previous mishap is still ongoing, the FAA demonstrates a willingness to support the rapid pace of innovation and testing that SpaceX is known for. Additionally, Starbase General Manager Kathy Luters has indicated that the FAA license is expected by the last week of May or early June, and SpaceX intends to proceed with the flights immediately upon receiving the license. These updates, along with the WB-57 placeholder, suggest that although not officially announced, SpaceX is targeting the first week of June for Flight 4. The launch license for all previous flight tests was obtained 2 to 3 days before the launch. Therefore, if the plan is to launch on June 1st, it is reasonable to expect the license for Flight 4 to be obtained next week. However, any delays in obtaining the license or unforeseen circumstances could result in a postponement of the launch from June 1st to a later date. Integrated Flight Test 4, or IFT-4, continues SpaceX's ongoing iterative method for advancing the Starship launch vehicle. As per Musk, the primary objective of Flight 4 is to push Ship 29 beyond maximum heating during atmospheric re-entry, or at least further than what was achieved during Flight 3. After analyzing the results from Flight 3, several heat tiles on Ship 29 have been replaced with better adhesives over the past few weeks. This change aims to prevent tiles from detaching under the extreme thermal and mechanical stresses encountered during atmospheric re-entry, thereby increasing the likelihood of Ship 29 surviving this phase. Furthermore, SpaceX has implemented several modifications to the guidance, navigation, and control system of Booster 11 to enhance its performance compared to the previous flight. Let's hope the booster will successfully execute a targeted powered landing in the Gulf of Mexico this time, which could not be achieved during Flight 3. Lisa Watson-Morgan, manager of NASA's Human Landing System, revealed that the Flight 4 mission profile is mostly going to be a repeat of Flight 3, but without the propellant transfer demo, payload bay door test, and Raptor engine restart test. The in-space Raptor engine restart test was actually planned for Flight 3, but could not be performed due to the vehicle's increased roll rate. Watson-Morgan stated that reigniting Raptor engines in space is a prerequisite for future launches into a stable higher orbit, but for now, they need to get the other fundamentals right. She added that NASA's main interest in the fourth Starship launch will be to see if SpaceX replicates the good engine performance demonstrated on the last two flights. Altogether, the goal of Flight 4, similar to all previous missions, is to fly as much of the mission profile as possible. The extensive data collected during test flights like these will help refine Starship design for operational missions in the future. Now let's move on to other exciting updates from Starbase. Groundwork for the second Starship orbital launch pad and launch tower is progressing rapidly in parallel with preparations for IFT-4. Following the demolition of the static fire test stand a week ago, teams are now focused on decommissioning the suborbital tank farm. These storage tanks, previously utilized for storing propellants for Starship's suborbital test flights and static fire testing, are currently being removed from the site to make way for Pad 2 foundation works. Piling works for Pad 2 have already commenced, with concrete works scheduled to begin upon the completion of piling. Subsequently, the launch pad infrastructures, including the launch mount, propellant storage tanks, and water deluge system, will be installed concurrently with the construction of the launch tower. The 5 second orbital launch tower sections, which arrived at the port of Brownsville from Kennedy Space Center earlier this year, are being transported one by one to the Starbase production site. Of the 5 sections, 4 have already reached Starbase, with the remaining 1 expected to be transported in the coming days. Additionally, 2 more tower sections are awaiting transportation to Starbase from SpaceX's Roberts Road facility inside Kennedy Space Center. Construction of the 8th and 9th sections is also underway at Starbase. Once the foundation works are completed, all 9 sections will be stacked at the launch site to finalize the second orbital launch tower. Upon the completion of the launch pad and launch tower construction, along with the testing and validation of all systems, SpaceX will be poised for Starship launches from Pad 2, potentially as early as next year. SpaceX is actively advancing with the decommissioning of the vertical storage tanks at the tank farm. The second liquid nitrogen storage tank was removed from its foundation early Tuesday morning, with ongoing efforts to scrap it. Currently, 3 vertical tanks remain, all previously utilized for storing liquid oxygen. Now let's discuss some of the latest updates from the world of science and technology. Blue Origin recently conducted its first crewed New Shepard mission in nearly 2 years, marking another milestone in the realm of space exploration and tourism. NS-25, the 25th New Shepard launch to date and the 7th crewed mission, lifted off from Blue Origin's launch site 1 in West Texas on Sunday, May 19, carrying 6 passengers on board. It was Blue Origin's first crewed mission since August 2022. That mission, dubbed NS-22, was successful, but the subsequent uncrewed research mission, NS-23, experienced a severe anomaly. During the NS-23 mission, the first stage booster of New Shepard was destroyed due to a serious malfunction, while the upper stage capsules safely landed under parachutes. Following this incident, New Shepard was grounded for more than a year while Blue Origin investigated the anomaly. The investigation revealed that a thermostructural failure in the nozzle of the rocket's single B-3 engine caused a misalignment of thrust, triggering the launch escape system. After addressing the engine issues, New Shepard returned to flight in December with an uncrewed mission. Sunday's mission was the first crewed flight since the rocket's return to service. The 6-person crew of the NS-25 included Ed Dwight, a 90-year-old former U.S. Air Force pilot, who was selected by the Kennedy administration in 1961 as the first black astronaut candidate, although he never officially joined NASA. The NS-25 mission made him the oldest person to fly in space. Other crew members included investor Mason Angel, French businessman Sylvain Chiron, software engineer Kenneth Hess, adventurer Carol Schaller, and Gopi Thoda, an Indian pilot and entrepreneur. After liftoff from West Texas, the NS-25 New Shepard vehicle ascended as planned. Approximately 2 minutes and 40 seconds after liftoff, the rocket's first stage separated from the second stage and began its trip back to the ground. Less than 7.5 minutes into the flight, the booster executed a powered touchdown at the landing zone 3.2 kilometers north of the launch pad, marking its 10th successful landing. The reusable booster is designed to fly up to 25 missions. Meanwhile, following stage separation, the crew capsule coasted towards space, reaching an altitude of about 107 kilometers, just above the internationally recognized boundary between the atmosphere and space. The 6 passengers were able to unstrap, experience about 3 minutes of weightlessness, and view Earth against the blackness of space. They returned to their seats as the capsule descended back into the atmosphere, deployed parachutes, and touched down in the West Texas desert. Notably, one of the 3 parachutes on the crew capsule did not fully inflate during the descent. The total mission duration was 9 minutes and 53 seconds, slightly shorter than previous New Shepard flights, which averaged about 20 seconds longer. The loss of one parachute may have caused the capsule to descend faster, thus shortening the mission duration. Company officials stated on the webcast that the capsule is designed to land safely with only 2 parachutes, and all 6 passengers were in good condition after touchdown. Blue Origin engineers will investigate the parachute malfunction in the coming days to determine the cause and fix the issue before flying again. Thank you for tuning in for the latest science news and Starship updates. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.